Hello and welcome to Gardening Australia. We've got a basket full of everything you need to get you and your garden absolutely humming this week. So let's get stuck into it.
I'm going to share my subtropical survival starter kit, must-have plants and techniques for gardener expats from cooler climes.
Are you tired of your plants drying out because you're too busy to water them or you're on the road a lot? Well, I've got a solution. This here is a wicking pot. They're easy to make, and I'm going to show you how to do it and give your plants an insurance policy.
I'm meeting a gardener who will inspire you to get out there and keep learning, whether you're new to gardening or an old hand.
And we meet a group of creatives doing some sweet work. Have you ever dreamed about moving to Tassie and living out the permaculture dream? Working with nature, growing it all, doing it all? Well, Hannah's with a couple who have turned the dream into a reality.
This is Cygnet, a beautiful town in the Huon Valley, around an hour from Hobart. I'm visiting some friends who, a few years back, made the big move to Tassie to set up their own place. I had a hand in the design of the garden, but Nick and Kirsten had a very clear idea of what they wanted and have made it completely and productively their own.
I love the relationship between me and the plants and the soil, and understanding that I can have a meaningful relationship with the other parts of my ecosystem. It makes me feel happy to be alive.
Nick and Kirsten have already appeared on Gardening Australia, back when they lived and worked on Meliadora, the Victorian property owned by David Holmgren, one of the co-originators of permaculture. So what is permaculture?
Permaculture is a way of reconnecting with place, connecting with where your food comes from, where your water comes from, where your waste products go, really connecting fundamentally with the ecosystem around you.
These fundamental permaculture principles are reflected in the layout of the garden.
Because it's north-facing, we have this section is the biggest microclimate. It's the sun catcher. We've got citrus against that wall. We've got perennials catching the sun with all these rockeries. Then it's down into intensive annual garden, and then berry arbour. And then below that is the perennial fruit trees and more perennial gardens, and a pond and a chicken house.
It looks quite organic and flowing, but it's actually quite structured.
Yeah, I think that the slope lends itself to that. We try to create these sort of flat areas, and that means that you end up dividing the space up.
Because it is a backyard, not a farm, and having come from farming, to us, the veggie garden being 2 steps down makes all the sense in the world. So you've got sort of outdoor living first, then intensive veggies, then fruit trees.
It's hard to miss the number of large rocks that have been used in the garden design.
They provide all this strength, they provide all this thermal mass, which is so important in this kind of climate. They're absolutely just gorgeous objects.
That was a little bit of a challenge to find a material that was both local and abundant, and this rock came from just down the road, and it allows us to really step the landscape down and provide all this amazing habitat and thermal mass.
It's a good point, isn't it? Because it's not just about plants, it's about all those little critters that live in those nooks and crannies and just loving life because they're there.
There's so many insects that are burrowing in there now, and so many lizards. And, you know, a few rats at one point, but I think we've seen them off.
Well, that's what this little guy's for.
Yeah.
To keep those at bay.
I reckon no garden is complete without a veggie patch, and this is a beauty.
I'm pretty proud of it, actually. We've got like 7 of these main beds here, and each one, I'm a bit of a stickler for maths and things, so exactly 5 square metres in each bed. They're all nice and regular, so we can swap the irrigation over, or bits of shade cloth, or little hoop houses to protect things from bugs and the like.
Yeah.
That's great. And I love that you've got carrots, but you've got something else in here as well.
Yeah, it's got leeks in between, and then we've got a quick crop of Mizuna there in the middle. And then this is just salads, just to keep us going in the meantime till everything else gets up, and a half bed of green manure to regenerate that bed for next season.
In between the beds, all our paths are really deep combination of wood chip and local sawdust, because it gets a bit squelchy here after a bit of rain like we've had, and it's nice to have it not too muddy.
This bed, we've got our brassicas down each side, but in the meantime we planted this really quick crop of snow peas to like just pop up and get a few snow peas off, but they'll stop flowering really soon once the temperature drops, and at that point we'll cut and pull out the snow peas and give a lot more light and space to the brassicas.
Do a bunch of this sort of temporary trellising and move them around from bed to bed depending on what we're doing.
And it's this one in particular is a really striking example of stacking your plants in very close proximity.
Yeah, in space and in time.
That's
and
right.
We'll
Love
get
it.
6 months out of the bed.
And part of the crop rotation is giving things a rest as well. So, like in this bed, we've got just a green manure, a few marigolds sort of surviving, but this will rejuvenate it so it's ready for planting. We made this compost about 3 months ago, so it's resting now. We really like making our own compost here.
So Nick, there's so many different types of composting. What type is this one?
Yeah, so this is a hot compost, a thermophilic compost. So that involved us making a big pile, like a big, more than a cubic metre pile, with a lot of manure and veggie scraps, and it got really hot, but that means it needs turning. So you get a workout, and it's good to have a good sort of compost fork like this. So that took a couple of months of us turning it kind of once a week or so to keep it from getting too hot and killing everything. But now it's settled right down. It's dropped back down to, right now it's like 20 degrees, which is about the average temperature here.
Sometimes people think it's the sun that's heating up the compost, but it's actually all that biology, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like us when we work hard, we get hot, and those critters are working hard. All that bacteria is working hard to break down the yummy goodness in the scraps, and that generates a lot of heat, yeah.
So this is our berry arbour. It's got a whole lot of different varieties of berries all the way along, and then it's got summer raspberries on that side and autumn raspberries on that side in between these trailing brambleberries. Yeah.
And you've also got a pretty strong understory plants as well. What's happening there?
Yeah, so we've got, this bed is quite wet, so we have a whole lot of different varieties of mint on that side, and just beautiful flowers to be beautiful and wonderful on this side.
Very important job.
It's a very important job being beautiful.
I'm loving the way your young edible forest garden is coming along with so many different layers.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Like we've got this understory of flowering plants down low and ground covers, and then sort of a mid-story, and then the overstory of the fruit trees. It's all nice and stable, doesn't require too much work.
And we've made sure that all the trees here are on dwarf rootstock so that, we can keep the tree sizes compact, which makes it a lot easier to harvest and a lot easier to net them for bird pressure as well. So
And lets a little bit more light through and air through for the understory. Down here in this climate, it's important because it's, it's a bit wetter and a bit cooler.
Yeah. And the edible forest garden is also sometimes called a food forest, and obviously it provides food for us, but does other functions as well, yeah?
Yeah, everyone that lives in this garden is having a great time in terms of all the insects and the pollinators and the lizards and the worms, and then all the soil food web, everything that's happening underneath the surface. We're trying to feed everyone that lives in this garden. So welcome to our chicken palace.
Pretty specky.
Yeah, it's all made out of recycled, found bits and pieces.
Harvests the rainwater off the roof?
Yeah, rainwater comes off the roof, into that gutter, into this chicken water barrel, and then there's like chicken nipple water pecky things, which, they really like using, keeps all the water really clean, and we never have to wonder if they've got enough water.
Yeah,
That's good.
sorted.
And the roof keeps this area nice and dry underneath for where their feed is, and it's got this clear bit so that lots of light can come in and to wake them up early in the morning in the winter.
It's a very gourmet
And-
chicken house.
And the slatted floor means that all the manure just falls through and it goes down onto this bit of sloping recycled plastic here. And then just when we hit the plastic, all the manure falls down into this gutter and we can scrape it out into the bucket. It's nice and simple.
And looks really fun. It's amazing how much Nick and Kirsten have achieved in just a couple of years. But really, they're just beginning their latest garden adventure with lots more still to do.
There's a whole lot of tiny little ones in
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
You're allowed to take them out. That's all right.
Do you enjoy gardening together?
I think we enjoy creating gardens together. I think we quite often need to sort of split up the tasks.
We've learnt ways to delegate to each other and find our own niche, I think, in each thing we do.
It's very collaborative, though.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
What plant repels dogs in the garden? Well, if dogs are really worrying you, standing on your plants doing their business, this is a plant that reputedly repels them. It's called Coleus canina, dog bane. And if you smell that leaf, crush it, oh, it really makes you... No wonder dogs, if they brush up against it, they're not going to like it. It has purple flowers. It does really well in full sunspot. You can grow it as a ground cover. Each little piece will grow. Try that and see if your rover likes it or dislikes it.
Why is my hedge uneven? It's good to remember that a hedge is made up of individual plants that all need a share of the sun, water and nutrients. Now, identifying these factors may help understanding some of the issues you may face. Now, for instance, competing root systems, slope of the land, or transpiration rates will all affect the distribution of nutrients and water. Another factor is uneven exposure to sunlight. And added up over a whole year, this can affect the growth rate of each plant. Now, with observation and some keen adjustments, you might find the answer is right under your nose or under your feet.
What are wetting agents? Wetting agents are substances that improve water penetration in soils, especially useful in soils or potting mixes that have become hydrophobic. This means they're not absorbing water well, and this is often caused by allowing them to dry up for too long. A wetting agent breaks up the waxy coating on the surface of the soil, and this allows water to better penetrate into the roots below. There are lots of commercial synthetic products out there, but you can make your own one using just 2 ingredients. Check out our website for Jerry's recipe.
We all have times when we need a little help in the garden. We may go on holiday or we might just be too busy to find time to water our pot plants, only to return home and find a plant gasping for emergency hydration. Well, I've got the perfect solution for those thirsty pots that everyone can have fun making. It's low tech, easy to put together, and it'll help soothe a guilty conscience. I'm talking wicking pots. Wicking pots are the ultimate inconvenience. They work by holding a reservoir of water that plants draw on when they're thirsty, just like a self-watering pot. So first up, I need to patch any holes in the base of the pot. And this pot here has had a hole cut out of it. So rather than just put straight silicone, which could get pushed out by the gravel, what I'm going to do is cut a piece out of this old milk container and put it over the inside and silicone that in. It'll make a really good solid join to turn this into a reservoir. You can pretty much turn any plastic pot into a wicking pot. In this case, this is around about 450 millimetres. It tapers a little, but it's perfect. It'll do the job. So having sealed the base, what I need to do now is have an outlet pipe. So in this case, I'm going to put it about 8 to 10 centimetres up the side of the pot and drill a hole. So this hole serves an important purpose. It enables the well of water to remain at a fixed height. So you can fill it up, but it will only go that far. And if you get excess rain or anything, it's not going to flood the whole pot and drown your plants. And then I'm just going to put this little elbow there. So that's the outlet pipe complete. I'm happy with that. The next task is to install the inlet pipe. So I've drilled holes into this piece of pipe, which will sit on the bottom of the pot in the water well. And it attaches to this piece of vertical pipe, and that's going to be the inlet. So what that means is you can put the water in here, it comes into the well and will wick up. And basically this also brings oxygen down into the soil as well. So it serves two purposes. So I'm going to attach the horizontal piece with the vertical piece with this little elbow, and then that can go straight into the bottom of the pot. So I've got the pipe loosely installed there. The next step is to fill the void where the water's going to be with some gravel, because that allows it to be a little water tank effectively. So I've just used some of this broken up old terracotta pot. Of course you can use blue metal, but you know, broken bricks, broken pavers, just bust them up and use them. Now, the real engine room of a wicking bed is the actual point where the wicking takes place. So what you need is a layer between the gravel and the soil to keep them separated, but that still allows the water to move up and down. There's a few options there. Of course, you can use what they call a geofabric, because that allows the water to move. You might have a few offcuts of fly screen. It will do a perfect job. Or you could even use hessian. Again, that allows the water to move in and out. Today, I'm going to use this nice offcut of geofabric because it will serve the purpose perfectly. We're getting there now. The next step is to install the potting mix. I've used a premium potting mix, but I've also added to it some worm castings and some of my own compost, and it's just beautiful. So now is the happy time, which is planting, of course. And I've picked 3 moisture-loving plants that I think are gonna really love these wicking pot conditions. First up, it's good old mint. You don't want to plant that in your garden because it'll go wild, whereas here in the pot, it's gonna find that moisture and will just cascade over the edge. So my second selection is this Vietnamese mint. Again, this goes nuts when it has access to water. So its roots will really dig down. And like the mint, it will go mad if you leave it off the leash in the garden. Contained in here, it's got everything that it needs. It can't get out, but it can get down to the water. And to spice it up a bit, I thought I'd have a go at wasabi. Now, it grows naturally along creek beds where there's plenty of moisture but still needs drainage. So in this case with the wicking, it can get its drinking, feeding roots down into the water. I haven't done it in a pot before. It's a bit of an experiment, but let's give it a go. This really does make gardening in pots even easier. Whether you're on a balcony or a rooftop where it might be hot and windy and dry sometimes, this can really help you. All you need to do to check on your water well level is put water in here. As soon as it overflows out here, you know that your tank is full. Well, there you have it. Wicking. It's something we all can do. I need it myself because I'm on the road a lot and I get frustrated when I lose plants. In this case, I've planted out this mix of mints, but you can put veggies, you can put flowering ornamentals, you can put whatever you like, and they will benefit from having that insurance policy of the water wicking well and the overflow, so that if it rains, it's not going to be flooded. Give it a go. It's as easy as ABC, and let me know how you get along.
This amazing soft feathery grass is called Miscanthus saraband. It's one of my favourites in the garden. It starts blooming in late summer and continues on through winter. The foliage starts off green in spring and then grows up to this height. And then as it ages in late autumn and winter, it actually goes a butter yellow colour. So instead of cutting it down, you still enjoy it and then prune it hard to just above ground level at the end of winter. Ornamental grasses like this are wonderful for adding some seasonal variation to your garden. They add movement when the wind blows, and they also add some height. It is clump forming and gets to about 1.5 metres high. A great addition to your garden.
Many of us have moved north to sunnier shores over recent years, and with that comes a whole new way of gardening. Fortunately, subtropical teacher Jerry is here to walk us through a little bit of Warm Climate 101.
So, like me, you've finally done it. The miserable winters, grey skies, bitterly cold commutes were finally enough. You've up stumps, joined the fleeing masses and moved to the promised land. Welcome to the subtropics. Already you're feeling warmer and more relaxed, and the memories of life in the frozen south are fading under a heady subtropical haze. Sweet freedom. But what about the garden? You might think that gardening in the subtropics will be easy because it's warmer, but be aware there may be frost. And while there's plenty of sunshine, summer rainfall can sometimes be patchy and often erratic. Here, there's two main seasons, warm and cool. The warm season runs from December until March, and it's generally wetter. The cool season runs from May until November, and that's generally drier. During the wetter season, the weather stays warm and humid, and cloud brings some relief from the intense sunshine. Rainfall can often be brief and heavy. Conversely, the dry season is characterised by reduced rainfall, lower temperatures and less humidity. But the reality of everyday gardening is that humidity is pretty much present all year round. To help combat these seasonal shifts, always add compost to the soil whenever sowing or planting, and always cover the soil with mulch, whatever the season, to capture and store seasonal downpours. The mulch will cool the soil, reduce runoff, and help in reducing the high evaporation rate. I favour chopped sugarcane. It's a local product and is fine enough to let showers through to the soil. Importantly, chopped sugarcane is excellent food for compost worms. Having spent 20 years here after gardening in London, Paris, Edinburgh, Perth and Sydney, I've learnt a few tips and tricks about what really works in a subtropical food garden. Starchy staples are essential in any garden. They bring satisfying carbohydrates to your kitchen, are easy to grow, and they store well.
And underneath all this withered foliage is a sea of potatoes.
Southern gardeners love the potato, but they can either wither in the warm, dry, windy springs or rot following heavy downpours in the warm, wet soils of Brisbane.
And look at the size of some of these spuds here. They're beautiful.
Rather than chase an elusive good potato crop, instead I grow a raft of alternative starch staples which love growing in this climate. I grow sweet potato, cocoa yam, arrowroot, winged yam and banana. Now, if you're just starting out, try sweet potato. They're easy to grow, but good drainage is essential, so plant in a raised bed. All my vegetable beds are raised 150 millimetres above the surrounding soil level. This will avoid tubers rotting in wet weather. Feed monthly and water sparingly. Watch out for grasshoppers. Sweet potato weevil is active almost all year round, so lift all your crop at harvest time so no tubers remain for them to breed in. Crop rotation, which means changing the bed where you grow them, will limit reinfestation. Usually, sweet potatoes are ready to harvest within 3 to 4 months after planting in spring. You can always tell when to harvest by exposing a few developing tubers to monitor their size. Never wait for the leaves to yellow. In the subtropics, sweet potato is evergreen. And don't forget, you can eat the nutritious young leaves and shoot tips anytime. Leafy greens are another workhorse in the garden, but certain vegetables like lettuce and Asian greens, this is bok choy, they can go to seed quite quickly in the warm Brisbane sun. So in order to plan for all year round production, I sow these types of vegetables in succession, and they do best in the cool seasons. I grow an array of edible greens, including Ethiopian cabbage, leeks, sweet leaf, king salad, and a range of tropical herbs, including Vietnamese paddy herb, fish mint, and la lotte. If you're looking to dip your toe in the water, try celtus. It's a type of lettuce which is really popular in Southeast Asia. It's primarily grown for its stems, which are peeled, sliced, and stir-fried, and they're delicious and succulent. But you can also eat the leaves. I chop these up and add them to stir-fries, soups and casseroles. It's totally at home in the tropics, and sometimes in my garden, plants can get to 3 metres tall. It's so easy to grow from seed. And you can't have a subtropical food garden without at least one exotic fruit tree, and my pick is the papaya. You can eat the ripe fruit, you can make lovely green papaya salad. With the underripe fruit, the seed will relieve any constipation, and if you run out of black pepper, you can chop up the leaves. It's brilliant. They're surprisingly adaptable and very generous in their yield, but they're best treated as short-term perennials and replaced every 2nd or 3rd year. Why? They often succumb to viral disease. You can cook the green fruit. They taste a bit like pumpkin. My other tip is to pick the fruit green and ripen it indoors to avoid fruit fly. Tomatoes are revered around the country, and it's no different here in the subtropics. This is Gross Lease. It's one of the all-time favourite backyard tomatoes. The difference here is the method in which we grow them. The season to sow or plant tomatoes in the subtropics is autumn. Sow in March and plant April to May, the start of the drier season. Tomatoes relish a temperature of 23 degrees Celsius. You also avoid fruit fly attack until the end of September. And to reduce the risk of caterpillars eating your fruit, grow cherry tomatoes. Another subtropical must-have is frangipani. In this climate, you don't need to limit yourself to the old-fashioned white. We can grow hundreds of cultivars in a rainbow of colours, and there's a range of fragrances. Here, you can live your best subtropical life. They're pretty foolproof, but they must have full sunshine and excellent drainage. Feed them twice a year, once in spring and again in summer, and use a slow-release fertiliser that's high in phosphorus for strong root growth and high in potassium for great flowers. They don't like to be overwatered. Water well once a week during dry summer months or during drought, and let them go dry in the cool season. Down south, all of these plants that surround me would be grown indoors. But here, we can just plant them outside. What's that? That's the sound of Melburnians turning green with envy. It's time to start living your best life in the subtropics, so cast off those shackles from your former existence and get gardening in the sunshine. You'll never look back. Dip in the pool, anyone?
Still to come on Gardening Australia. Millie shows us how to start small. Clarence shows us some cheeky locals. And we meet a creative collective of beekeepers. Every time I travel to Perth, I'm always blown away by the incredible West Australian plants. Now, Josh has found an absolute cracker of a garden that's telling me one thing: time to go west.
Oh, I love roses, yeah. It takes me way back. I remember my granddad back in England, he used to grow a lot of the roses and he used to show them. He used to judge them in London, part of the Royal Society. So it was very important for me to have some roses here.
At first glance, this may seem like the old story of UK migrants reproducing an English country garden in their Australian backyard. But for Sue Cross, it's her adopted home that has expanded her gardening horizons well beyond these beauties. The word is that Sue wasn't actually a gardener when she first landed in Perth, and it was the Western Australian flora that inspired her to get started. I need to know more.
When I came to Australia, I fell in love with all the endemic species of WA. I thought, oh, that's a good chance to showcase some of them in my garden. So I checked out what was growing over the road and basically tried to mimic the same thing here. Well, I'm actually situated in the Perth Hills. It's on a sloping block. It's 1/4 acre. We were very lucky that we had the terracing already in place. So instead of changing anything, I actually worked with what we had. So when I got the tube stock, I started the boundary near to the road and I worked in because I actually wanted the privacy.
And despite all the noise, it's still a thriving habitat garden.
Yes, it's a busy road. It's amazing what you can do. It brings in lots of biodiversity. I went and purchased a little bird box. We put up one this year, and now we've got pardalotes. On really hot days, we get the cockatoos come in, the red-tails, and that's quite an amazing sight. We've always had the quendas, so how cool is that?
What was the state of the original garden out the back?
Oh, my goodness. It was full of couch grass. We had morning glory running all over the beautiful mulberry that we inherited. Oh, a crocus palm. My goodness, this ugly crocus palm. And it was, yeah, probably the first thing I got taken out. So it was certainly a challenge. Let's have a look at the vegetable garden and the little orchard.
Isn't this absolutely delightful?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
I bet you are. You've created a beautiful garden, Sue, but there's a lot going on. How have you gone about it?
First, I started with planting out the boundary. Then I put in the trees, the feature trees, and then slowly I put in the understory. I worked with the land. We had a good layout already here with the steps coming down through the garden arch, and I created the rooms individually. So we've got a rose garden here, and a rose garden there, and then I decided to put in a native garden for habitat.
And how about the productive areas?
I actually find that very challenging in this climate to grow vegetables, and so although I might have a little harvest, I'm very, very proud.
What's the soil like on the site? I'm guessing you've improved it a lot over the years, given the compost bins and worm farm.
There's a lot of sand over clay. And at the back here, this is just sheer granite. We soon realised that I couldn't grow anything in this area, so we put the chook pen in. Then came the worm farm, and then I decided to keep the compost here, which they actually get the shade from the lovely bay tree as well. It's very important to understand what you're actually going to be planting with. You have to get into the soil. I did a pH test. I realised what amendments I needed to make. And one was definitely organic matter. So I used the method where I kind of built upwards instead of building down. I find that the mulches are very, very good for retaining the moisture, because I get a constant dig over as well from the quendas that run freely around the garden. I actually have to come round in the morning and I'm putting around my precious little seedlings, I'm putting all this soil back to make sure they're not going to dry up by the time I get back from work. And I think it's just, as gardeners, we have to observe what we have and to learn to actually work with it.
The featured trees play such an important role in this garden. Which species did you choose and why?
Firstly, I looked at the aspect of the land because we're facing west, so I definitely wanted trees to create shade. And I also didn't want them to overcrowd the whole garden, so they had to have enough room to grow without intruding onto the house. The first one, which I really loved, was the cerise, the forest pansy. I loved the purple leaves. Then I had a Chinese tallow. I'd love that for the colour change, but we don't always get that winter colour change, sadly. And then I've got the Acer, which is absolutely magnificent. The prunus is just a, beautiful tree.
How have you developed your gardening knowledge over the years?
I went to TAFE and I studied Australian natives. I then joined the Eastern Hills Wildflower Society. I think learning from people in the field that are older is a fantastic way because, they've been doing it for a while and they've got a lot of knowledge to share with you. I work at a school, so I'm gardening 5 days a week there. It's a full-time job. I honestly just enjoy it. Yeah, I think it's great to be outdoors and learning, creating spaces that bring people together, just enjoying the garden. We would like some cake, yeah, the flowers are edible. Dave, my partner's fantastic. I mean, he's aided with so much of the woodwork, like the framed garden bed along the side fence. My son, he climbs the mulberry for me. Can get up there now as I can't do it so much. My daughter loves to come and visit here and spend time in the garden. We all do. I think it's great to garden and to not think about it. I go with the flow. It's a space where I just let myself be and wander wherever I want to go. And I think that's so good for, I suppose, mental health, for your soul, for your well-being. Just love it. Yeah, I couldn't imagine living without gardening.
If you want more plants in your garden, I cannot recommend a tube stock nursery highly enough. These tiny little pots, they are some of the best value and most transportable plants you can buy. And often, a small plant like this will actually outgrow a larger plant within a couple of years. They are really good at getting over transplant shock. But for success, you still need to know a couple of things. Now, one thing is, even though they're small plants, size does matter. You might think it's really good value to get your little tube and get this tall and full in the pot plant, but really, something like this is getting too old. You can feel that pot is really, really firm. You can feel the roots have filled it out. You're much better off to go for something that's really well balanced. You can see it's within a couple of sizes, the height of the pot. I can just see there's a few roots starting to poke out. That is a fantastic option for the garden. Now, if the thing you want really is only available as a tiny plant, that is okay, but what I would recommend is you don't put it out in the garden straight away. What you want to do is take that home, put it in a nice sheltered spot, maybe a little bit like it is in the nursery, and leave it there for 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a bit longer, until you just see those roots coming out and that plant is then ready to go out in the garden. It's always great to be able to see the true colours of a plant that you're buying at the nursery. See what that flower colour is going to do. But I would recommend choosing the plant without the flower. It takes so much energy for a plant to make flowers and then seed. And so you want something that's actually going to put its energy into growth. You can see here with this little prostanthera, they're just the same age cuttings, but this plant here has produced quite a bit of flower. It's now trying to form some seed. It's absolutely stunted compared to its mate, where the flowers have probably been pinched off as it developed. That's a much better buy. Once you've chosen the perfect species, I give you full permission to buy up big. It is the benefit of using these little affordable pots. They can be as little as $2. And so when you're buying a tree or a feature shrub, you might only want one. But once you get into those other categories, I always get more. Something like a shrub under about 1 metre, I'll always get 3. If I move into things like these perennials that flower beautifully, I might get 5. And then when it comes to fillers, grasses, and these gorgeous little bluebells, well, I get as many as I can carry. When it comes to planting tubes, really there's not much to it. I tend to try and loosen a sort of area that's at least twice as wide as the width of the pot and make sure you've got that depth. And that gives the roots a bit of space to grow out into. And then a gentle tap. You can see those roots, they're really ready to get in the ground, and I might just give them a little tease apart. Then in it goes. Backfill. Depending on how much you're going to water, you might put a little well around it under that mulch, so that'll direct the water down to the root system, and then back around with the mulch. One thing I have found is these little plants are really susceptible to be pulled out by birds as they establish. So just to give it a bit of protection, often just make a little teepee of sticks. Doesn't need to be fancy. And then that'll just prevent them scratching around really easily. Keep that well watered for the first 4 or 6 weeks, and then hopefully you can water it less, and in no time that tiny little plant will be a world of joy.
Australia's own native daisies are some of the best garden fillers or edging plants you will find anywhere. Just take a look at these. Brachyscome daisies flower all year round, especially if you get some water into them during a dry spell when they can get a bit straggly. Now here's one for your trivia night. You'd be forgiven for thinking this is one flower, but that is where the brachyscome fools you. This central eye is in fact a cluster of small flowers with their own petals. And what look like petals are actually ray florets. Their job is to be a colourful landing pad for insects. Now, they also come in a wide range of colours and forms. In fact, around 100 species of brachyscome daisies are found in Australia. Some do turn up in New Zealand and even PNG. And that means you should find some local daisies that suit conditions in your garden. They will grow into a wide patch or hang beautifully from baskets and pots. Bringing year-round colour, endless varieties and loads of insect life, local brachyscomes will keep your garden looking as fresh as a daisy.
Wind can play havoc in a garden. Strong winds can break branches or defoliate a plant, and hot, dry winds strip the moisture out of your plants and the soil. Fortunately, there are some simple things that you can do if you live in a windy area or if strong winds are forecast. Planting windbreaks or wind-resistant trees and shrubs can act as a barrier and help to break the force of the wind. Choosing native plants that will suit your area is a great way to go, like my saltbush hedge. Remember, the bigger the area you're trying to protect from the wind, the taller your windbreak needs to be. Solid or slatted fences help to block the wind in your garden. A sturdy fence creates a wind shadow, reducing the strength of the wind in your garden. Wooden or metal fences work well. If you've been caught short and don't have time to build a fence or plant a windbreak, consider temporary windbreak structures like shade cloth, trellis or bamboo screening. These can be positioned strategically to block the wind without being a permanent fixture. In the warmer weather, taller plants like sunflowers and tomatoes may need staking to protect them from wind. Use flexible ties with your stakes because rigid ties, like wire, can act like a garrote and cause damage to your plant in strong wind. Consider container gardening for delicate or smaller plants because they can be moved to a sheltered location for windy periods. Apply a layer of mulch around your plants. That will help to anchor the soil and prevent it being eroded by the wind. It'll also help to protect the plant roots and stop moisture being wicked out of the soil by the wind. Create microclimates in your garden by using walls, rockeries and raised beds. This can help to give protection to groups of delicate plants, and as a group they're more resistant to damage by the wind.
Bees are a little friend in the garden, buzzing alongside us when we're out there slogging away. This next story is with a creative collective building on the rich cultural history of the European honeybee and using art to think about the role of these constant garden companions.
The wonderful and incredible thing about bees is the way our history has been intertwined for millennia. I mean, these are the creatures that gave us candlelight, they gave us beeswax for polishing leather, they gave us sweetener, honey, they gave us mead, and most importantly, they pollinate our crops. I'm Nick Dowse. I'm the founder of Honeyfingers and the Honeyfingers Collective, which is a Melbourne, Naarm-based creative beekeeping studio. It's a network of people who do all sorts of creative things. So we've collaborated with painters, photographers, sculptors, food artists, architects, sound artists. Essentially, whoever's around at whatever point in time it is, if they've got a creative idea, we run with it. And we always center our work around bees. Hey, Karina.
Hey, Nick.
Now, under here, I've been very naughty and left off the inner hive lid so we can see that. There's beautiful burr comb in here. Burr comb is a description beekeepers use to describe honeycomb that isn't inside a frame, and it's full of honey.
Beekeeping itself as a practice creates a really beautiful terrain to reflect and feel connected to the rhythms and cycles of nature. My name is Karina Utomo. I'm an experimental and extreme metal vocalist. And I am an amateur beekeeper, and I've been learning beekeeping from my mentor, Nick. Wow.
Whoa.
Looks very heavy. One of the first things that I've learnt from Nick, prior to opening a hive, you should be in a state of calm. And it's possible to beekeep without any gloves. And when we're moving slowly and speaking softly, you shouldn't bother them too much.
There's this weird little paradox where you have to accept the fact of being stung if you don't wear gloves, but not wearing gloves makes you, in this case with these hives, a better beekeeper. Yeah, it's just a wonderful mindfulness exercise and a little reminder that sometimes accepting risks you can manage helps you relax a little.
You can't really predict what the bees are going to do like any other animal or, creature that we don't have control over. So it's quite beautiful to just sort of observe how they interact within our landscape. My name is Sarah and I'm a documentary photographer from Melbourne. I've worked on a number of projects with Honeyfingers over the years. Probably the most recent one was with Acid Springfield, and that's more of a soundscape sort of project, and I just worked on the video and to create a music, like a video clip.
The nature of experimenting with sound means that you never know what the result's going to be. Once we got into a hive and looked inside, we really did feel like there was a lot of similarities between ambient music and the workings of the hive.
In general, I like to explore themes relating to the environment, people, community, and our landscape.
Many, many years ago when I was studying architecture, I had this sort of idea about planet architecture and human architecture and insect architecture. So this is just a little piece that we made in cooperation with the bees. I love the way they attend to whatever you put into the beehive. So if you understand how and when bees build comb, you can start to do these little interventions with them. I grew up in the Gold Coast, right on Currumbin Creek back in the 70s, where people would buy a house at the front, would have a spare quarter acre at the back. And it was semi-rural. 2 of my neighbours had beehives. I was first stung by my neighbour's bees, and I first saw a swarm being caught in my tree by my neighbourhood beekeeper. Years later, I enrolled in architecture as an adult, and in my first design studio, I just went on a deep dive into the architecture of the honeybee superorganism, and something in me was switched on, and I've just been exploring the beauty of the honeybee superorganism ever since. As Honey Fingers has developed, it's become a few different things. Primarily, we're really interested in communicating all the issues around honeybees, food security, and urban ecology to the public. What we're trying to talk about with our audiences is bringing those connections back into the city, because historically, beekeepers have always kept bees in urban environments. It was only in the 20th century that we kind of started to have a separation between urban environments and food production. Honey Fingers manages hives predominantly in the inner north of Melbourne and in the east, so backyards in Hawthorne, including some apartments. We also have a couple of community garden spaces, so Pentridge Community Garden, up in Coburg, Fair Share in Abbotsford. Wow, it's so heavy.
Whoa.
Oh,
Holy moly.
full of honey.
The honeybees have worked all season to collect nectar, build the cells, and create this honey for us. So you tend to only take it, rob it, if there is a surplus, because you want to make sure that there's enough food for the hive that will last them through the winter season.
So we put the frames into the basket. You can do 2 or 4 with this one. And then once it's like in there and evenly loaded, thumbs clear.
Yep.
I'll just slow it down a little bit.
There are so many facets to beekeeping, and I guess one thing that I've particularly noticed, I do feel more of a sense of awareness of what is going on around me. So I have caught myself doing a little bit of bee stalking, just watching bees, watching which flowers they're attracted to, seeing, you know, their pockets full of pollen. They're affirming encounters, I guess. So I think having that awareness is really special and has been the gift of the honeybee.
It's time to keep you as busy as those bees. Here's your list of jobs for the weekend. Cool temperate gardeners, it's time to fling your spring flowering bulbs in. Ranunculus, tulip and daffodil bulbs can go into the ground now or be popped into a pot for a stunning spring display. Up your indoor gardening game and propagate some happy houseplants. Take stem cuttings from pothos, philodendrons and syngoniums, pop in water and wait for roots to form. Simple. It's crunch time for celery. Preferring full sun and fertile soil, plant celery seedlings in deep trenches. Water regularly and liquid feed fortnightly. The faster they grow, the better they taste. In warm temperate gardens, it's the perfect time to propagate some strawberries from runners. Gently remove these long whippy shoots from the parent plant and pop into soil. Sweet as. As the weather cools, move cold-sensitive pot plants like orchids and other tropical treasures inside or under cover, and minimise watering to keep them cosy and comfy all winter long. Native lilies like Murnong, milkmaids and chocolate lilies are dying down, so pop a state plant label or marker with them so you don't accidentally dig them up during their winter dormancy. Subtropical gardeners, for a fast-growing crop with pop, plant some corn. Sow seeds direct, 30 centimetres apart in a square or block arrangement. Underplant with lettuce and coriander for a poppin' productive patch. Cultivate cuttings of correas now. From new, firm, healthy growth, take 10 centimetre stem cuttings, strip off lower leaves and pop into propagation mix. You'll have new native plants in no time. If you're craving cabbage, plant seedlings now to make the most of the long, cool growing season. Sow tried and tested varieties like Drumhead and Savoy, feeding monthly with blood and bone. In tropical gardens, clean up your act and harvest your loofah before they get mouldy. Harvest while the skins are still yellow and beginning to slip. Remove skins and seeds and allow to dry. Plant some seeds of Amaranthus tricolour in your patch. This lovely looking leafy annual is edible, the young red and green foliage being tender, tasty and full of vitamins and minerals. Keep turf looking tip-top. Using a garden fork, poke holes across the lawn to aerate it and relieve compaction, and follow with a feed of pelletised chook poo for strong, healthy roots. In arid zones, it's time to pamper your pots. Repot plants, top up containers with new potting mix and compost, give your foliaged friends some fertiliser and treat them to some much needed mulch. Baked, boiled or bunged in a burger, there's nothing better than homegrown beetroot. Soak seeds in water overnight. When they sink, they're ready to be sown into fluffy, fertile soil. Loads of plants are about to put on an autumn growth spurt, so now's the perfect time to prune. Remove dead or diseased wood, tip prune to improve shape, and follow with a feed. Make the most of the awesome autumn weather and get into the garden this weekend. For tips, tricks and loads of info, head to the Gardening Australia website. Well, it's over already, but don't worry, we're only just warming up. Here's what we've got for you next time.
I'm visiting a heritage hidden gem, one of Australia's oldest colleges specialising in horticulture. I'm meeting one of the teachers and the new generation of students who are experimenting with really different plants.
So these are nice big stems?
I'm getting a tour of an incredible inner city garden. It's full of design ideas, but it's also the culmination of some fantastic collaboration.
And cycads are like an elderly grandparent. They're old enough to have seen it all, they're unfazed by life's dramas, and by example, show us how to live slow and take our time. I'm here at Mount Annan Botanic Gardens to take some notes.